Hello, everybody. I'm going to share this really quickly into the group. It just always seems like once I share it, things do pick up a little bit and more people join. So it's just better to share it while I have the chance. As soon as I can find where my post thing is. Oh, here it is. All right, that is posted. It looks like I am live on my phone. Let's go back over here. Okay, so we have a couple watching. Kind of wait until more hop on before I get into the subject for today. Kind of wait a minute. I should do the actual time marker of when I actually start into everything so that women can skip to that if they want. How was everyone's weekend? Ours was great. Hey, Shasa. No, that's not Shasa, Mrs. Southern Belle. That is Day, right? Or is it Shasa? You and Day Frazier have the same profile almost. Let me see. Is that Day or Shasa? That is the thing. Shasa is my best friend's daughter. Hey, Sarah. Hey, Julia. Driving home from Chicago. Fun times. Not really. I hate the traffic of Chicago. I hope you're not driving. I hope your husband's driving. Or are you driving? This is Day. Okay. I can't tell by the picture. In the little tiny picture, you kind of look like Shasa. So I'm glad you could join live. Day is pregnant, so pray for her pregnancy right now. They're expecting another one. Is it number 5? I think. I lose track. And actually, Shasa, my best friend's daughter, is also pregnant with her second right now. So, but I don't know if she watches this live normally. So good to have all of you ladies here. So this was a subject, this verse has been on my mind a lot lately. And this verse is Proverbs 31:28. I was actually listening to a sermon and it kind of triggered this verse in my mind. And that is basically, her children will rise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praiseth her. Because I was thinking about just the generation that we live in. We live in a very social media world. As you scroll reels, shorts, and TikToks, you see the theme over and over from moms everywhere. The theme of selfishness. We live in a very me-centered culture. The need for me time. The theme that kids are annoying and draining and pests. While there are elements of truth to those above statements, I'm not going to whitewash things and say everything is perfect, life is perfect, sickness is great, nothing bad ever happens. Kids are never annoying. The overemphasis of it and the horrible mindset are turning moms into lazy, entitled victims. In turn, the kids in the home are growing up feeling as if they are a bother to the mom. The home is a miserable place. And in turn, when the kids turn 18, they can't wait to get out of that horrible environment and break free. They also deal with years of bitterness against their parents. They are the last ones to sing the praises of their mom, or their dad for that matter. This gives the mom yet another victim card, if you will. She bemoans the fact that she gave up her whole life to raise the kids and stay at home, yet when she was in the home, it did not bring her joy to be raising her kids. Instead, she saw her kids as a burden. She didn't even like her kids particularly that much. Why then would they feel any kind feelings towards her at all? Also, we have wives who have sold into the feminist ideals. They think they can have their cake and eat it too. They want to lead their husbands. They want to be in charge, and they treat him with disdain and contempt. Is it any surprise that we have the unhappiest marriages and the unhappiest generation we have ever seen? Husbands don't trust their wives. They don't cherish their wives. They don't have good relationships with them. So why then would they sing their praises? This whole show today is about becoming a woman whose children rise up and call us blessed, about having a husband who praises us. We can't be lazy, miserable victims our entire lives the entire time we're raising our kids, the entire time we're married, and then expect these things to happen. It doesn't happen overnight. It takes years and years of good choices for the above verse to come to pass. We have to be intentional about this. We have to make it happen. We have to choose good choices. Let's talk about ways to become this woman, the woman whose children rise up and call her blessed, and the woman whose husband praises her. So like I said, I think this was born primarily from being saddened by what I see on social media, especially. And I think Joyce had addressed it when she was on the show about the hashtag relatable, which I haven't really even seen that much of those. But a lot of the reels and things that come up is just moms just bemoaning their lives, complaining about their kids, complaining about their husbands. And yes, there is a little bit of element of truth to some of those complaints. You can have a funny complaint and make a joke out of it. But I've seen the oh man, one came across, it wasn't someone on my friends list shared it. And I clicked on it, and it's a song that's going viral, talking about how their husbands basically make them do too much labor or something. You might know what I'm talking about. It's a song that's going viral. Women are already making reels about it, talking about how they're a baby machine 24/7, and their husbands pretty much are just using them to go off and have their white picket dream. And, basically that they're working them too hard. And it's just going over all the complaints. I'm a therapist, I'm a mother, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this, and just complaining about it. And it really broke my heart, and it fit in so well with the theme. And I actually meant to go back and write down the words of that. It's not a song I recommend. I don't even think the whole song is on TikTok or YouTube or Reels or wherever it's going around. But it saddened me, because that is the mindset of so many women, that we're being used and we're being abused, and they don't see being a stay-at-home mom and raising their kids as a blessed vocation. They see it as a burden, and they see it as they're forsaking their dreams to stay home and raise their children and pour their life into someone else. So it was really sad. But in order to get to this spot, we can't have a mindset like that song. We can't have a mindset where we hate our life and we're the victim, and look what these kids have done to me. Look what this husband has done to me. And that song pretty much was the embodiment of what I see today. So with our children, we're mainly going to focus on our children being intentional when it comes to working towards this goal with our children, and then with our husband. And then some tips at the end that I can throw out there to help you get to that point, where you're working towards it. So with our children, first of all, you have to be intentional when it comes to all the things that you do in your life with your children. And number one, I think overall, they need to see our love. That's got to take first and foremost. That's got to be first and foremost in our lives as we raise our children. There should be no question in their mind if mom loves them. And if you're the type of person that's not a lovey-dovey feely type, I'm not either. I'm not a lovey-dovey feely type. But I guarantee you take any of my kids and you ask them if their mom loves them, they're going to give you a solid yes. I probably tend to overdo it, especially with my babies. I'm always telling them I love them. From the time that I got those two positives on that stick, I have had a deep, from the time, there's just that we've had a few surprises along the way, a few unplanned, if you want to call it that way. They're all planned by God. So I don't even like using that term. A few surprises. And every time I got those two lines, I was in love. I was madly, deeply in love. And that's why my two miscarriages, I did take hard, because I knew what I was losing when I had those miscarriages. So I know there's a lot of women, they don't get that overwhelming feeling like I do. And that's fine. You don't have to be just like me. I'm just saying my love has been there very deep, very fervently. I've always wanted to be a mom ever since I was a teenager. You don't realize everything that goes into it, but I've always wanted it. And so every time I got those two lines, I was madly, deeply in love with that baby and my future plans. And so you need to tell them. I don't care if you're not good at telling people you love them. Tell your kids. They need to know this. You need to tell them often. You need to tell them every day. You need to give them a hug every day. They need to know that without a question, mom and dad love them unconditionally. There have been times when my kids have messed up royally, and I've told them I'm disappointed in you, but that does not change my love for you. So, they know that I'm there and that I love them. So, when it comes to disciplining, we need to be intentional in our discipline. with them. And that involves every little situation that pops up. Just, it takes work. If you see a weak area in their life, as our moms, we know our kids the best, and we see a weak area in their life, it takes work to address that, but you have to be intentional about it, but have balance. You don't want to go overboard when it comes to this. You don't want to be the one whose kids are so afraid of their parents because every infraction, they're just, bringing down the hammer. Now, you need to have balance. You need to kind of have a guideline for how things are dealt with in your home. This is a serious offense. This is not quite as serious. This is not quite as serious. And, you also need to show grace at times when it's daylight savings time and the kids are cranky, show a little bit of grace during that time. They don't get a nap, show a little grace. I remember when I was a teenager, there was some people I knew that had little kids, and I didn't have any kids at this point. And I remember they explained something to me. They said, and I did not agree with this advice, and I still don't agree with this advice. Back when they told me, I was like a little, okay, that's kind of weird. But they were talking about how they don't allow bad attitudes or crying or anything like that ever in their home. And even if their kids are tired, they don't allow it, because as adults, if we're tired, we can't just go off. If we're tired, we can't throw a temper tantrum. Well, here's the problem with that. Kids drastically, their attitude drastically changes depending on sleep. I am a firm believer in good sleep, and I can tell a difference in attitude and disposition when my kids have not had enough sleep. So yes, I understand that adults don't get to do that, but we're not talking about adults here. We're talking about kids. And, if your kid keeps acting up, just have them take a nap, have them sleep. A lot of times a bath, going outside, or a nap will help. Crankiness, crying, bad attitudes, tempers. You got to, especially with toddlers, you got to have distractions in place too. You can't just, go crazy and I'm going to win this battle. My child's cranky because they didn't have a nap, but by golly, I'm going to win. You have to have some balance in your life. So be intentional about your discipline. Be intentional about your time with them. Always be available. And as a mom of 8, having my oldest 21 down to 2, I am pretty much available from about 7 in the morning till midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning. I don't go to bed much before midnight nowadays because I have a college age son and he works pretty late, doesn't get back to the college pretty late. And that's about the only time I have to talk to him. So normally if I'm going to talk to him, it's between 11 and 12 because they have like devotions at 10:45, 11. And then by 11:15, he's done. So most of the time I don't get to bed before midnight. And then you know how it is with babies. I've got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old, and they're still not the greatest sleepers. They've been my worst sleepers. So I'm up sometimes throughout the night. So right now I'm probably stretched the most thin I ever have been when it comes to my children. But that doesn't mean that I just get to turn my phone off, close my door, lock it, let the babies cry all night or whatever. I have to still be there for them. I'm not past the point of my life where I've raised them all. So it's just accepting that this is the season I'm in and I'm just available for my kids whenever they need me. If my daughter needs to have a talk with me at 10 p.m., I'm there. If my son needs to talk to me at 11 p.m., I'm there. If the baby needs me at 3 a.m., I'm there. So I am the most important person in their life right now as far as what I have to offer, just being there, talking to them, wisdom as they're navigating life and relationships and all these other things. So once they get married and they're out of the home, they will have a new important person in their life, a new, very important person. They will leave and cleave unto that person. But until that time, I need to be there. And then even after they're married, I'll be there too if they need me. But most of the time, kids get married and they kind of establish their own family and things kind of lighten up for the parents. So, but we need to be intentional with our joy in them. You need to enjoy your kids. You need to let them know that you enjoy them. You need to laugh at them. Our 2-year-old and 4-year-old are a lot of work, but sometimes they are hilarious. And, laugh with them, have fun with them, play games with them. Right now, Hannah and Kelly's favorite thing to do is to go up on the table and jump to me, jump off. And they are brave. They have no fear. They trust me 100%. And they will just laugh and laugh and laugh. And then they'll say, do it again, do it again. And yeah, that might take 10 minutes out of your day, but they'll never forget those memories of launching themselves off the table into mom's arms. So let them know that you take joy in them. And then your affection for them. I don't care if you're not a hugger. I don't care if you're not a kisser. Be that way for your kids. They need physical touch. They need physical hugs. They need kisses. They need cuddles. They need, even the older ones, need hugs from you, mom. So, definitely be affectionate with them. Number 6, I feel like we need to be intentional in our care for them. When you signed on to be Camel Mom, you signed on for years and years and years and years and years and years of taking care of those human beings. And it's not just setting some slop in front of them like you're raising an animal. There's so much more that goes into it. And part of this is the way that we take care of them. The cleanliness of them, teach them hygiene from the time that they're little. And when they're little, baths are a big deal. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of effort. It's an ordeal, but it's so important that they learn how to be clean. They learn good hygiene from you. The cleanliness of the home is another important area. A lot of our kids' health depends on the cleanliness of our home, whether or not there's garbage sitting out, whether or not, if you have animals, if they, mess anywhere, make a mess anywhere, clean it up. Because if there is animal urine or animal feces anywhere, that can cause health problems. I've even heard of people that have to be careful with their kids around chickens outside. If they don't wash their feet good enough or something while being around them, they'll get, is it salmonella or something from them? So, teach your kids to clean up, teach your kids to wash their muddy feet, teach your kids the importance of that, and then keep your home clean. Let them see. So much of what they're going to do when they're older and married is modeled off of how you kept the home. I'm pretty picky with this area. We don't have any animals right now. I eventually want to get a kitten, but when we do, I have the litter box. We've had cats before. I'm very picky about keeping it clean. If there is a mess anywhere, cleaning it up right away. This will really cut down even on sickness if you keep things sterilized during the sickness. Most of my kids, when they have sicknesses, they're very short-lived. It's very rare that I have a very long drawn-out one. And when I was growing up, there was a lady that my mom was really close to, and we would go over there a lot and, play with them. And she had a very messy home. I remember that. And they had very messy animals. They had very messy animals, and things were just not very sanitized. There were animal feces places or animal urine. They did not clean it up promptly. Their house smelled like it. And I remember when we would get sick, my mom was very clean when we were growing up, and we would be over it in like a day or two or something. And this lady's kids, it would be a long drawn out process. And I remember, maybe this made an impression on me because I was younger, my mom telling me it's probably because the state of her home. And that really made an impression on me. And I remember that. And so, definitely have to stay on top of it more when they're sick, whether you clean with some kind of natural cleaner. I get out the Lysol wipes when my kids are sick. We wipe down counters. We wipe down, thankfully we have hardwood floor now. So when we did have the puking flu, it was a lot easier to clean up. But definitely if they puke in the carpet, get it cleaned up right away. And then once everyone's better, you can steam sanitize it as well if you need to. But the way that you keep up during sickness, really, I feel cuts down on the sickness, even if you clean with peroxide, maybe spray surfaces with peroxide, sterilize everything, disinfect everything. It really, really helps. And then nourishing meals. This is part of our responsibility too, to make sure. Hey, Joyce and Kaylin and Beth, nice to see you back. Cynthia, Rachel, Angie. Yes, steam mops are really good, especially for hard floors. I don't have one. I need to get one of those, but steam mops are really good for this. We just kind of use Lysol wipes, real fast done. But I have noticed a huge difference in cutting down sickness. Like I said, my kids do have strong immune systems because they've gotten sick a lot since they were little, because we're always in church and around people. So for that reason, that might help too. Strong immune system will also help you kick a lot of those things, but you can use natural cleaners. I'm not, I'm like not super crunchy. So I will bring out the Lysol. But you can use natural cleaners too if you want. But yes, nourishing meals, that's our job. So one of the ways that I try to do this with my kids is offer healthy snacks. And that's usually fruit, string cheese, and yogurt. They all really love those. I know some people don't do snacks. That's fine. But then we also try to do a lot of eggs because we have chickens. We're getting a whole bumper load of eggs right now. Lots of egg casseroles, think ahead, and then a home cooked meal. It's very expensive for our family to eat out, so we don't eat out as a family very often. So lots of home cooked meals is what we try to do. And then doctor appointments and dentist appointments, their teeth, all this stuff you're going to have to keep on top of. And it's really difficult with a huge family, but we signed on for that when we decided to have a big family. And it's just part of me. And since my husband works, as most of us, our husbands work, the primary caregiving falls on us. All right. If we're stay-at-home moms, then we have the opportunity during the day to take the kids to the doctor whenever we need to, the chiropractor, the dentist. I tend to keep up on dental appointments because now this is if you have dental insurance. If you don't, I understand how you would only go when there's a problem. And there's good teeth care, things that you can do at home to help prevent flossing, making sure you brush their teeth, things like that, cutting down on sugary drinks, trying to only drink milk or water. There are things that you can do at home to help that. Nicole just sent to our group a probiotic for teeth that I'm kind of interested in because I have a couple kids that have weaker teeth than my other kids. So I'm kind of interested in looking at that, like a probiotic for the teeth. That's a very interesting concept. And it makes sense that you would have bad bacteria in your mouth rotting away your teeth. So it's something I'm going to look into. But you have to stay on top of that. If your kid has a tooth that's hurting, a tooth that's hurting can go to the brain. An infected tooth can go to the brain very quickly. So you might have to take them and get antibiotics. I had to do that with Allie. She had a really bad tooth and the cavity was going all the way down to her root. And it got infected and I had to take her to get antibiotics, but that's one thing that I'm not going to mess around with. So yes, we do drink raw milk. And yes, I think that does help with teeth. And interesting enough, Allie is the one with the worst. And I don't know, she drinks a lot of raw milk, actually. I think she might be one of my least raw milk drinkers, her and Lana. But it all comes down to balance, knowing and trusting your intuition when it comes to when you need to take it a step further and get them checked out versus trying to deal with it on your own. And there are things that I will try to deal with on my own. I'm not a medical doctor. Let's put that disclaimer out there because I have had actual pastors come after me because I have a video on strep throat, which I've never said that I had the cure, that if you do this, you'll never have strep throat again. I've never said that because I've had strep throat multiple times in my life. But I do a protocol when I get strep throat. I know the symptoms. I've had it so many times. I get a fever and my throat is all swollen. I can't drink. But oregano oil, the P73 Mediterranean brand, is just as effective as antibiotics. And they have done studies that show that. There are actual doctors that no, I didn't just read it on Natural News. I actually try this and it works just as well as antibiotics. In fact, sometimes when I take antibiotics, because I've done both ways. Sometimes when I've had to take antibiotics for my strep throat, it came back after I was done with the antibiotics. So the antibiotics did not kick it out. When I have done the oregano oil route, I take it like 6 drops in a capsule 3 times a day for 10 days. I do it the whole day as long as my antibiotics. When I have done it, is kicked it completely and it's never come back. Reoccurring. I mean, I've gotten it like 2 years later or something. I'm talking about back-to-back infections. I have had back-to-back infections with bladder infections where I took the whole round of antibiotics. As soon as I was done with the antibiotics, it came back again. I have had back-to-back infections with strep throat, where as soon as I was done with the antibiotics, it came back the day after I was done with the antibiotics. So when I take the oregano oil P73 Mediterranean brand, it's an expensive brand. But when I've done that protocol, I've kicked it, until the next time I get it, which is like 1 or 2, 3 years later. It's been the last time when I made that video was the last one I had. So I haven't had one since then. I'll probably get it again eventually. I'm very susceptible to that, but it's just knowing balance and knowing when not to mess around with it. And I even put a comment in that if you've gone 24 hours and you've tried it and it hasn't done a thing, you need to go to the doctor and you need to get an antibiotic. Maybe the antibiotic works better with your body. So you need to do that, because I'm not a doctor and strep throat can go bad. I knew someone that had strep one time and he did not get it treated and it eventually caused him heart problems, I believe. So it can be pretty serious, but it's just knowing boundaries. And yes, I would never experiment on my children. I am a firm advocate in going to the doctor when necessary. And all my church ladies know that. They'll throw out a question. Do you think I should because, of this? I'll say, yes, I think you probably should. And we have a really good doctor that most of us go to. And he doesn't mind that we don't jab our kids. And he's very common sense approach with things. So we all will go to him when needed. And it's just a balancing act. So yes, just a balancing act. But that comes to their clothing too, keeping them clothed, keeping them, warm in the winter, cool in the summer. And I try to stay on top of that. I look for deals when it comes to clothes. I go to Goodwill, I do thrift stores. And the majority of the time, I will be buying my kids' clothes over me. It seems like that always happens, right? I can't help it. I find something cute. And so I'm spending my piano lesson money on the kids, not me, but that's okay. But let's be intentional with our training of them. So we cannot be lazy with training. It takes time. And when I say training, I'm not even including just like disciplining them for things. I'm talking about training them how to run the home. If they're a girl, training them to be a hard worker. If they're a boy, training them to excel at things that they do, whether that's cooking, baking, artwork, music lessons. We have to be intentional. We have to stay on top of it. And it does take more time. It takes more time to show the 4-year-old how to sweep with a broom, but eventually she'll be sweeping the whole kitchen. It takes time to show the 10-year-old how to load the dishwasher, but eventually she'll be doing that on her own too. It takes time to show the 8-year-old how to mow the lawn, but eventually he'll take over all the yard work. So it takes time at the beginning, but it will pay off in the ending. People ask me, how do you get so much done? I don't know how you get so much done. Most of this is coming from young moms. Young moms, do not try to do everything I do. I'm just going to tell you that. Do not try to do everything I do. Do you know how I get so much done? Because I have older kids that help out. Because I have a daughter who loves cooking and who is pretty much a kitchen Nazi and is always cleaning the kitchen, always cleaning the house for that matter. She likes things very neat in their place. And it drives her nuts. I'll tell her, Abby, leave it alone. We can clean up after the babies go to bed. That's what I did when they were younger. I adjusted my mindset and I cleaned up after they went to bed, but no, it drives her crazy. So my house stays clean throughout the day. We're able to have people over because we take the time on Saturday to clean the bathrooms, do the little things, mop if we need to, different things like that. But the reason that I'm able to teach on the side, the reason that I'm able to do this show, the reason that I'm able to go on dates with my husband is because I have older kids. I did not do all this when I was younger. I did not start a side thing until my oldest was almost 13. Tommy was almost 13. So it was not until about 8 years ago. So we were almost 14 years into our marriage before I finally had a side thing. And that was just because my husband helped out in the evenings when I would go teach piano. My son also did a lot too. When he was 12, 13, he really stepped up and helped a lot around the house. He was being the oldest and he did that. And that helped out. And then as Abby's grown up, now she's my right-hand woman. And I just know as my kids start getting married off, then the next one's going to step up and help out. And the next one's going to step up and help out. And there's always going to be a cycle until my kids are grown and gone. So the reason I get so much done is because I have older kids. That's the plain and simple truth. When you're younger, you're going to have to be a lot more intentional about things. And you're going to have to realize that I can't have it all right now. I can't have a side thing. I can't have even a hobby that I'm invested a ton into. I have to focus on my home, my husband, my children. That's it for now. And eventually my time's going to come. So I think you have to really come to that realization. And that's the next point is our schooling. Take homeschooling seriously. You have to be intentional about it. You don't want to raise dumb kids. And a lot of that lays on your shoulders. Teach them to read and write very well. That's going to be the two biggest skills that they use in life. Grammar, teaching how to read, how to write, huge skills, and math skills they need to have too. If it's hard for you, this year my plate's a little full, so I'm doing online math with the kids, and they have a teacher every day that teaches things to them. They do their answers right online. It keeps track of their scores. They take their tests on there, and that really takes a lot off my plate when it comes to math. So realize what you need help with and kind of find a solution to help you out when it comes to that. Church, be intentional about taking them to church. This is a huge one for us. This has always been high priority with us. Anyone who knows me knows that when church is going on, we're there unless someone's puking. That's really the only time. If the kid has been fever free for 24 hours, we're there, and stuff is going to happen. Don't feel bad if you end up at church and then you come to church and you end up 8 hours later with a fever. It's sicknesses happen. You're going to be exposed to that at Walmart. So, sickness is out there and we can't hide from it. So sickness has never been a deciding factor for us, whether or not we're going to be there. If we're all fever free and not puking, we're going to be at church. And then just showing them our walk with the Lord, be intentional in that, showing them that you're not a hypocrite. Don't say something to someone else, but be doing something opposite at home. Don't be like, well, we never watch movies. And then you go home and you turn on Sound of Music. That's just a lie. I've never hid the fact from anyone. No matter which crowd I run with, I've ran with lots of crowds in my life. I've ran with the diehard, no TV people. I've ran with the diehard, TV's great, except for I've ran with, the balanced. I think it's just balance when it comes to everything. We've never had cable TV. We've never paid for a cable streaming service, but we have internet and we have a smart TV. So we watch YouTube and Amazon Prime. We got rid of Netflix when they came out with some horrible things, but we watch the oldies and goodies, Sound of Music, musicals, Newsies, things like that. So, I'm not going to wax eloquent about things that we don't do and then go home and do them. Your kids see right through that. So just be who you are, at home, at church, in front of people, behind closed doors. Be who you are. Respect their boundaries. And kids do have boundaries. Kids are very uncomfortable with some things, and then kids are fine with some things. But you have to use discernment when it comes to this too. Know when they need to be pushed, but know when to back off as well. Because I've had some kids that were major introverts, and I've really had to push them out of their comfort zone. And I've had to push them to when it comes to, different musical opportunities and different things like that. I've really had to push them, but it helps build self-confidence. It helps show them that they can do the hard things. And so I think it's very important. I remember the first time Chloe ever recorded a song, she came out and her whole neck had broken out in a rash. And she was so nervous. It was because she was just really nervous. It's really intimidating when you're standing in front of a microphone, in front of a camera, and you're singing. And she was really nervous and she broke out in a rash. But now she does pretty good at it. She still gets a little nervous. But if I would have just said, it was too hard for you, look at you. Your body's reacting. You broke out in a rash, not for you. Don't have to do it anymore. then she wouldn't be singing trios with her sisters in church. She wouldn't be recording for the music channel. So sometimes you have to push them to do the hard things, and be intentional about your love for their father. They should know, just like they know that you love them, that you love their father. That is one of the most secure feelings in the world that you can give to your kids, knowing that mom and dad are together for the long haul. Even if they have a disagreement, there's no chance they would ever break up or call it quits. So they need to see, your love for their dad. And then, be a mama bear when you need to be a mama bear. Stick up for your kids, stand up for them when there is injustice done, but realize that they aren't perfect and watch for things to work on. And this takes work, and this takes effort, and this takes discernment. Knowing, okay, my child did step out of line here and they need to work on it, or versus knowing they were done an injustice, this wasn't their fault. I don't believe in raising victims as kids, just like I don't agree with falling into that victim mentality. I also don't want to raise kids who have that victim mentality. And you have to be careful, because if you stick up for them in the wrong area when they really have messed up and done wrong, and they just need to take responsibility for what they did, it can create, everyone's out to get me because of this, or everyone's going to get me. Teach them to overcome. Sometimes people aren't going to like them. Oh, well, it's life, especially being a McMurtry. It's life. Sometimes people won't like you because of your last name, and you got to rise to the occasion. Don't be like, oh, that's it, I give up. No one likes me, so I'm just going to be as bad as I want to be. A lot of people give into that mindset. Teach them to overcome. Teach them, what, you're going to have obstacles in life, maybe because of your name, but people will see your character in time. People will see your true self shine forward. It doesn't matter what people say. It doesn't matter the rumors out there. People are going to see what you truly are. So, and then they're your kids at the end of the day. No one else's kids. No one else's kids. So you are their number one. You and their dad are their number one protectors in their life. You watch out for them. It doesn't matter if a home does something differently than you. You know what's best for your kids. God gave those kids to you for you to raise, and you know what's best for them. So let's talk now about our husbands. How can we be intentional with our husbands? So after 20, 30 years, they're rising up and they're they're praising us. Basically, our kids call us blessed, and our husbands rise up and they praise us. I think this is something that every woman definitely wants, but it's not something that's just going to happen. It's not going to be something that falls into our laps. We can't be lazy, miserable victims our entire married life, be a nagging wife, be contentious, have a mean spirit, show disdain and contempt for our husband, and then expect him to get up and praise us. That's not real life. That's not going to happen. So how can we be intentional in this area? Well, number one, I definitely think we need to show our love for them. We need to be intentional with our love for them. There's going to be different seasons in life where sometimes it doesn't feel very lovey in your relationship, but love is not always a lovey-dovey feeling. Sometimes it can be. Sometimes, especially different times in a woman's cycle, it ebbs and flows. Sometimes she will look at her husband and think, you are so amazing. How did I end up with you? And then a couple weeks later, she's looking at her husband and she's like, who did I marry? So it definitely ebbs and flows based off where we are in our cycle. And that's just a fact of life. So sorry, it does. And I've gone over the 4 weeks of your cycle before. There are definite differences all throughout your cycle. So be aware of that. Sometimes love is an action. It is choosing, I'm here for the good. I'm here for the bad. I will never leave this man. I will always love this man. So our husbands need to know that we love them. Tell them that you love them. Every day we try to. Every single day we try to tell each other that we love each other, even if he's half asleep and I'm like, hey, what? We're like, I love you. I love you too. Even if it's at 11:30 at night before we fall asleep, we're telling each other that we love each other. I think that's very important because you never know when that last I love you is going to be. I think often of all the women whose husbands have walked out and maybe gotten in a car crash, or who, were diagnosed with some awful illness. You never know when that last I love you is going to be. So make sure you do it every day, and our admiration for them. Men need to be loved, and they need to be admired, and they need to be respected. And I think any man will tell you that. Let them know that you think they're the strongest, the sexiest, the most manly hunk of a man that there ever walked on the face of the earth. Let them know that. Tell them that. Admire their muscles, admire their accomplishments. Maybe you have a super great provider who brings in a very good income. Let him know that you are so appreciative of the fact that he does it so that you're able to stay home. Most of us are very blessed to be at stay-at-home wives and moms, and that did not happen by accident. You've had to make sacrifices. You've had to learn to live on less. And your husband is working very hard. Sometimes one job, two jobs, one full-time job and two part-time jobs, one full-time job and one part-time job. Sometimes he's working extremely hard so that you have the blessing of staying home. So tell him how thankful you are for that. Tell him how much you love your life. Men need to know that you're happy. Men need to see that you're happy. You just need to be happy. I can't tell you how it breaks my heart, all the unhappy, miserable wives that I see. And most of us have not been through anything. We live in such a blessed society. We've never known hunger. We've never known famine. We've never known pestilence. We've never been persecuted. We've had great upbringings. We've had great family. We've had great parents. Why are you so miserable? Just don't be miserable. And that is a choice. We have to choose to be joyful, even in bad situations that might happen, but most of us don't have many bad situations that happen. We need to show our husbands that we are happy with this life that we have. We love being a stay-at-home mom. We love being a wife. We love being married to them. We admire them. We trust them. They are so handsome and so good to us. And men respond very positively to that. They need to know of our loyalty to them. That means don't put them down in front of people. Don't talk smack about them to people. Don't complain about them to your best friend. There have been times when my husband and I have been arguing before. We all do. Sorry, that's just stuff you have to work through. I would say that the arguments are probably we'll go months and months and months without having an argument. But in all those years, I have never really gotten specific or told even my best friends what was going on. It might just be like, had a rough day. I'm at odds with Tom. I might say something like that, but I never go into detail. I've never told my mom or any of my family. So like even my most best friends, I don't go into detail. I don't feel it's something that anyone else needs to know about. Even when we do have a disagreement, we try to deal with it privately, behind closed doors, not in front of the kids for the most part. They don't need to see, why their mom's at odds with their dad or why their dad is at odds with their mom. So we try to keep that on the down low. I feel it's okay. Kids sense things. They know when you're at odds with your husband, and I think that's okay as long as they see that there's a resolution. I think it makes them feel a little more comfortable knowing that mom and dad can have times where they don't get along, but yet they always resolve it. And that's what happens. It's always resolved. So, but yeah, they need to know that you're loyal to them. And for me, I'm, with my personality type being type 8 on the Enneagram too, and my husband is also a type 8. So for us, loyalty is very important. And I think often of that verse that talks about a faithful man who can find, and it's true in church. It's true in all settings. In church, a faithful man who can find. In marriage, a faithful man who can find, or a faithful woman who can find. So they need to, loyalty is very important to me. I am closest to the people that I know without a shadow of a doubt would never stab me in the back, would never talk smack about me. If they have a problem, they're coming to me about it. They're talking one-on-one to me. I try to treat people that same way. If I have a problem, I will confront them about it. I won't talk about them behind their back. And I think our husbands want that from us. They need to know that we're in their corner, so that even if the whole world is against them, they will have one person who's cheerleading for them, one person who's in their corner, one person who is backing them up no matter what. And I feel like that is so important for husbands. Oh, I'm sorry, Angie. She said, watching my dad right now going through grief has made me realize how important saying I love you and working hard to keep a marriage going is so important. Very true. And yes, say I love you often. Even if it's not you, it'll get easier. It'll get easier every time you do it. So just do it. Just do it for sure. Something that we need to be intentional about as well when it comes to our husband is our physical relationship with them. I've heard some Christian men bemoaning the fact that there are no women, older women out there that are teaching the younger women about the importance of this. I feel like you can touch on the importance of this without getting too graphic, but just realize that you are your husband's only and he is your only for any fulfillment of physical desire. And it needs to be often. It needs to be enough so that there is no room for temptation. There is no even thought of going somewhere else for a steak dinner. There needs to be no question that that is a strong bond between you two. Because that is the only place that any fulfillment of the physical relationship needs to be fulfilled, is in the marriage. So definitely be intentional about that. That is very important to most men. And I feel wives are tearing down a lot of their houses by just being selfish in this area. Schedule a time if you need to. That sounds very dry cut. What is it called? Sounds very dry. And, I don't know. What's the word for it? I can't think of the word off the top of my head. Just, planned. So you're like, but I don't think most husbands would mind. If you need to do that, do it. Because it is important. Just like you would schedule a date to go out with them, schedule physical time if you need to. So cut and dry. That's it. That sounds very cut and dry, but it's you have to, and then that gives you both something to look forward to, gives your husband something to look forward to, gives you something to look forward to. One area I've tried to help out in this area is every day I've tried to spend time with him. I hate it when a day goes by where we're so busy and pulled so many different directions that we don't even have time to say hi to each other, sit down and talk to each other, focus on the physical relationship at all. So what we've tried to do from the time our kids were younger, you all know it very well, we would put them to bed early, and then we would have a few hours devoted just to us connecting through, watching a movie, just talking to each other, the physical relationship, whatever it takes. You need to stay connected to your husband in that area. And I've heard of some wives going weeks and weeks and weeks. Well, I just don't feel like it. It's not important to me. I don't have a drive, whatever, but it is important to your husband. And the Bible says to defraud not one another. So it is a biblical command that us as wives, our body is not our own and our husband's body is not his own. We belong to each other. So you need to make that a priority. And then I think one of the most important things when it comes to this area of our husband rising up and praising us is this area of being productive. I have seen so many reels and so many TikToks that are like joking about the fact, this is me at 10 a.m. It shows them on their phone. This is me at 12 p.m. This is me on my phone. This is me at 2 p.m. This is me at 5 p.m. And then suddenly they're cleaning and doing things right before their husband gets home. Okay, that's a little funny, but oftentimes it's true. Women will sit around for hours on their phone, and that should not be so. Our husband is not going to be in the practice of praising us if nothing is getting done around the house. The house is a mess. The kids are dirty and they haven't had a bath in 2 weeks and nothing has been cleaned in 3 weeks and there's garbage laying around. And he's like, I'm home. What's for supper? You're like, I don't feel like cooking. Let's order pizza. Well, what have you been doing all day? Well, I don't know. It just, I'm keeping the kids alive. Isn't that enough? Well, yes, that's our main thing. But if we've been on TikTok for 6 hours, shame on you. If we've been scrolling Facebook for 3 hours, shame on you. There are different times of the day where I kind of in my mind have a schedule. I can do this, this, and this, and this at this time. So most of the times, if you notice that I'm posting shorts or posting anything on TikTok, and then I just always share it. I do it on TikTok first and share it to my shorts on Instagram. A lot of times I do those late at night. I won't do it during the day when I have things going on. That's not my time. So we all need a little bit of chill time. So the time for me is after the house is clean, the house is quiet, the babies are in bed. My husband and I have spent some time together, whether that's talking together, just whatever. And then that's kind of when I go through and clip out what I need. And that's when I do it. So a lot of times you'll notice they'll either be posted like early in the morning or late at night, because I try to primarily just stay off my phone most of the time through the day. There's stuff that needs to be done. Obviously, when I'm teaching, I can't be on my phone that entire time. If I'm helping the kids with school, I can't be on my phone. So if it's that much of a stronghold in your life, just put it somewhere. Tell your daughter to go hide it and then not give it to you until the evening, if that's what it takes. Maybe you're really addicted to it and that's what you need to do, but we need to be productive as women. We need to be a hard worker, whether it comes to our home, keeping the home clean, doing good meals, whether it comes to the church, whatever we're committed to at church, we're there for. If that's choir, if that's orchestra, if that's some other ministry, a food ministry, if we say we're going to be there, we're there, whether that's going to a shower or going to a Bible study or whatever it is, just whatever you commit to, do it. Whether that's a side job, when I decided to start teaching piano out of my home, I knew it was going to be for a long time, because I don't start something unless I'm 100% sure I'm going to continue on with that. And now we're going into 3 years of doing that on my own, almost as much as I worked at the Arts Academy. I think I worked at the Arts Academy for about 3 or 4 years. And we're coming up on that anniversary now, with me having my own thing out of my home. And it's been so much better because I know I can keep track of what's going on during the day. The kids are doing school right outside my door. I know what the babies are doing. I know what the home is looking like, how it's being run. So that's a good thing for me, but I'm productive. I don't take that lightly. I'm serious about that. I'm intentional even about that, about invoices and lesson plans and getting the right materials into my students' hands. I want them to be learning and advancing and moving forward. And so I'm always tweaking, will this curriculum work better for them? Just like I do with homeschooling. You have to be a hard worker when it comes to all these different aspects of life. And then being thrifty, making the most of what you've been given. Don't bemoan the fact that you have a small home. Make the best of it. If it's small and you hate it and it's crummy, fix it up. Paint is cheap. It does not cost very much. I have a China plate wall that I absolutely love. And I got the China plates for like 50 cents at Goodwill, all of them. And I bought paper clips and Gorilla Glue, and I made myself a China plate wall. And it's one of my favorite walls in my house. And that did not take very much money at all. So you can find thrifty ways to decorate your house. You can find thrifty ways to clothe your family. And just make the best of what you've been given. We've always been poor, financially speaking, in our home. And I've always had to make do with very little. And it's an art, and it's one of the ways that your husband can safely trust in you doing that. So be available for your husband as well. You are the helpmeet. If he needs time with you, it's okay to tell the kids, this is daddy's time now. I need to focus on him for a few minutes. Okay. You need to go do this. We've done that before. He needs to know that he is the most important person in your life, him and the kids. And then study your man, figure out what he likes and do it. That's activities, find activities that he likes. There's some things that we do that's not necessarily would be my first choice, but I've learned to love them and I love doing them with my husband. One of those things is water. We both love water now, like beaches, Lake Michigan, anything with water, any bodies of water. And that was not always a love of mine. But since we've been married, we like going to different state parks along Lake Michigan. And then they usually have sandy beaches that are pretty empty most of the time. And we're able to walk along those. And that's just something that we both love to do. And I've grown to love that because he does. Working out, we've loved to work out together. working out for my personality type, it actually does help alleviate a lot of stress, but I'm not very good at being, taking the initiative to do it. So it's nice when I have a spouse that likes it as well. So we both do that together. And then I often joke that if we go to any restaurant, I can sit down, look at a menu, and order exactly what he wants because I know his exact taste. After cooking for him for almost 22 years and studying him and getting to know him, I know exactly what he likes. Men are easy as long as they're fed and you're nice to them. In your regular relationship and the physical relationship, most will be happy. Obviously, there are exceptions to the rule. You do have some out there that are just jerks, and nothing's going to change that. But that's the exception to the rule. Most men, if you keep them happy in your physical relationship and your regular relationship, they're going to be happy. I don't even really like giving a list of things because no other man matters more than your husband. And my husband is not your husband and your husband is not my husband. So these are just generalities because I don't want anyone following Cassandra McMurtry's list. My husband's different than yours. Mine allows me to be myself. He's not a perfectionist and he loves my spunky personality and he gives me the freedom to be that way. After 22 years, we're kind of in a groove. I know what he expects and he knows what I expect. And honestly, if either one of us has a need, we just tell the other. We're very upfront with each other. There's no communication walls. There's no communication barriers. It's just not there anymore. I don't know if it ever was because of our personalities. There's no awkward spots with each other. We just are who we are with each other. And be honest about your expectations with your spouse, but don't have unrealistic ones. You know what? Stop watching Hollywood because most men aren't like that. Be intentional about scheduling time together. Like I said earlier, put the kids to bed early, focus on each other, overlook his faults and focus on his strengths. Because as women, don't we want him to do that with us? And don't tell me you don't have any faults. We all have faults. We all have shortcomings. But isn't it a lot better when our husband just loves us for who we are and he chooses to overlook those faults and he chooses not to be bitter at us, just like the Bible says? So do the same with him. Stop nitpicking everything, stop nitpicking and just overlook his faults and focus on his strengths. I mainly focused on your kids and your husband in this show because that's what the verse is about. Your family knows the real you. They see you at your lows. They see you at your highs. They see you when you're sick. They see you when you feel the greatest. They see if your relationship with the Lord is real. They see if you love their dad. They see if you exhibit any hypocrisy at all. Your kids are the biggest testament to the fruit in your home. And let me say that again. Your kids are the biggest testament to the fruit in your home. Anyone can fool anyone when they have kids that are 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. When they start getting to 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and on, they show what's been going on in the home all those years. Even though this verse takes years to attain, not all is lost if you haven't done any of these things. So if you're wanting to do better, here's some things I'm going to give you. It's going to be a list. And, this list is not exhaustive. And this list is not something that you have to do. Do X, Y, and Z, and this will happen. These are just some hints and some tips and some things that you can try. Not all is lost. You can start today and have a better home for your kids. You can start today working towards this goal, and it might take 5 years. It might take 10 years. It might take 15 or 20 years. But if you start working on it, you'll get to that point where your children are going to rise up and call you blessed, and your husband's going to praise you. So very quickly, 14 things to help you get to this point. Ditch social media. If it is a stronghold in your life, if you are constantly comparing yourself to other people, I'm telling you, when that stupid song came on today and I listened to that, it depressed me. It depressed me, number one, that there's women out there that truly feel that way, that feel like they're just being used and abused and their husband's living this dream life and he's just taking all this out of you and sucking all this out of you and making you work too hard and you don't have anything to show for it. It was depressing. But because that is the mindset of so many women nowadays, that being a stay-at-home mom is just drudgery all the time and you work too hard and you have too much labor. I don't even feel like we do with all the things that we have at our fingertips. We've got servants. If you want to count the KitchenAid and the Instant Pot and the crock pots and the steam mops and all these other things. We have all these tools at our hands. We're not overworked. We're not overworked. So ditch the social media if it's dragging you down, if you're constantly comparing yourself to everyone, if you're listening to the reels and it's bringing you down, you're watching the TikToks. TikTok is a horrible place. Just saying. If you're watching any of that, I never watch anything on TikTok. I go on there, I make the little short or reel or whatever, because it literally is the best platform for making shorts. And so I'll make it on there. And then I don't watch anything unless it's like Jen Bay's stuff, because I follow her on there. I'll like some of her stuff, some of Trisha's stuff. I think those are the only 2 followers or the people I follow I can think off the top of my head. But I don't go on the main feed. I don't even really know how you do that. So ditch it. If it's bringing you down, ditch it. Lose the phone during the day. Put it up. Have one of your kids hide it. Say, don't give this back to me unless someone calls, which I can see all my calls and things on my watch. So if I get a phone call, a lot of times I'll have my phone in a completely different room, but I can see, if my husband's tried calling me or something, I can even talk through my watch if I need to. Lose the phone, have accountability, whether that's a best friend, whether that's your husband. Say, I've really been lacking in some of these areas. I need a cleaning accountability. Can you text me and ask if I've gotten the kitchen cleaned up today? Can you text me and ask if I've cleaned the litter box? Hey, if you're really falling behind and you need some accountability, get some accountability in your life. Get on a cleaning schedule. Cleaning schedules really help. Have a certain day. There's like this clean mama that me and Sarah follow. I think that's her name. She does different things for each day. Keeps it very simple. Do that. Follow a cleaning schedule. Meal planning. Have a meal. I bought this like calendar thing and we can write in the meals for every day that we're doing. Confess to your kids and husband. Say, I've been really lacking in this area, guys. I'm really sorry. I'm going to step it up, because you just confessing is going to have a level of accountability there, because they're going to watch and see. Is mom going to change? Is there going to be things that she does differently? So confess to your kids and husband, reshape your mindset. Get all that junk out from all the stupid TikTok songs or whatever. Get that junk out of your head and reshape it. Read the verses that talk about how, you need to learn to love your husband and love your kids and, be a stay-at-home mom and do all these things. Stop watching worldly shows that are going to feed that. Stop reading worldly books. There's some Christian authors even that can get a little too much into the fantasy world of how a husband's supposed to be. If that's affecting you, and you can tell, if you start noticing every fault in your husband and you start getting annoyed that he's not romantic enough and he's not this enough and he's not that enough, you probably have some other outside influences that are playing with your brain. So recognize that and get that out of your life. Develop a new skill, whether that's knitting or crocheting, whether that's getting chickens. I highly encourage everyone to get chickens. Whether that's gardening, Day mentioned gardening. So get involved in get your kids outside, get them out there helping you. I think it's really helped Lana and Allie just having chicken chores, and they really love the chickens too. So they really love that. Come up with a schedule for yourself. If you find yourself whittling away time and not being productive, not staying on top of things, write it out. Say, I'm going to be up by 7 a.m. I'm going to have the kids started in school by 9 a.m. I'm just doing this because it's like loosely my schedule. I'm going to be feeding them lunch at 12. We're going to have a break here. We're going to do this here. We're going to do this here. Stick to a schedule for a while and you kind of fall into the groove. I don't have a written one because I kind of just fall in. I kind of have a loose one that my kids know, and we just kind of follow loosely. Find a good church to surround yourself with other stay-at-home moms, other women that are seeking to love the Lord and follow him. Find a good church and get plugged in. And then number 14, the most important one in all of this, is stop being a victim and overcome some things in your life. So stop being a victim. So many women today, just like that stupid song that I heard, are in this victim mindset. He does this to me and he does this and he expects me to clean the house and he expects me to cook the meals. He expects me to do the dishes. I was talking to Abby about this. The guy that she's talking to, I'm going to tell a little story. The guy that she's talking to told her, he's like, I just want to tell you something, I'm not going to clean the house if we end up getting married. And I say good for him, because that's almost unheard of nowadays. And my husband's the same way. He doesn't clean the house. He just doesn't. And I could sit around and gripe and moan and complain about it, but I don't. I just accepted that he does not do dishes. He does not vacuum. He does not clean the house. And in my mind, I just don't understand why I would expect him to when I get to stay home. He works really hard, so I get to stay home. Sometimes he's worked 2 part-time jobs along with his full-time job. Sometimes I feel like he's almost always had a side job. Why would, after 12 hours a day of work, he come home wanting to relax and I'm griping and complaining and do this and do that and do this and do that? He does all the yard work because he loves it. And that's a way for him to kind of get his anxiety out or whatever. But I don't expect it. And I'm not going to whine or complain or moan about it. That's, doing housework is not his thing. And honestly, it's not most men's thing. If you have a man who helps you out, great. Good for you. That you guys work really well. But if you have a husband like mine who doesn't, just accept it. Don't nag him. Don't complain about it. Don't be a victim. Oh, he expects me to do this and he expects me to clean the house. Rise up and overcome and just do it. Come up with a cleaning schedule. I like what Sarah said. Julia and I started exchanging to-do lists, and that's helping us both stay on top of things. Accountability right there. A partner, a friend that helps you stay on top of things and helps keep you accountable. That's an awesome, awesome idea. And something, and you know what, that right there is overcoming. When you know that you have an area that you need help in, just being accountable to a friend and having a friend help you out is the first step in that. It's, accepting responsibility for it, and it's coming up with a plan or an action to overcome that. So that's a great idea. All right. I hope this stuff helped you. These are not to-do lists. Do this, this, and this, and this, and this, and this will happen because, life is crazy and life throws a lot of variables at us. But these are things in my life that I've seen. Now I'm getting the fruit of this verse. I'm seeing this verse come to pass. I have older adult kids and they still like being around me. My son was home for the weekend and he had to go home, or he had to leave home. He had to go to college, back to college. And he's out of passes now until it's done. There's like 2 months left of college. And he was really sad. He's like, I'm so depressed. I don't even want to leave. I love being home. And that made me feel so happy because I've always wanted to raise children that are leaving home, but I wanted them to be sad while doing it. And so I'm seeing that come to pass, and pray for his future. He has a very sweet girlfriend and they are planning probably to get married this summer. That's exciting. And then my other 2 oldest kids are also talking to significant others as well. So I have a feeling life is going to start going very fast for me. We're in an interesting season right now. I feel like the next couple of years are going to be really fun. So I'm excited, but I'm now living some of this out, and it's a very exciting time, but I did not get here overnight. It took almost 22 years to get this point. So I hope the same for all of you. I want all of your guys' husbands to rise up and call you blessed, all your children to rise up, call you blessed, all your husbands to praise you, but it does not just happen. There are intentional things that we need to do to get to that point. So I hope you all get to that point. But that is it for today. I will have on a guest next week. Catherine Niven is going to be on to talk hair care with me. So that'll be an exciting one. I'm excited to have her on. She has a huge channel, which we will link to in the discussion. And she has just gone viral with her hair care tips. So I think it'll be really interesting, especially for my audience, where hair is kind of important around here. So anyways, I hope you all have a great week.